The night that was supposed to celebrate us. The first thing I noticed was that she wore red. Not the loud, attention-seeking red you expect at a nightclub, but the quiet kind, the kind that looks expensive without trying. Deep crimson. Silk. Sleeveless. The kind of dress that says I belong here, even when you don't recognize the woman wearing it. She stood near the bar in our living room, holding a champagne flute like she'd done it 1,000 times in this house. Laughing softly. Comfortable. Too comfortable. And the worst part? My husband noticed her before I did. Ethan's smile faltered, just for a fraction of a second, but after 22 years of marriage, I'd learned to read his silences better than his words. His shoulders stiffened. His hand loosened from mine. That's when I knew. Something was wrong. But let me rewind because that night was supposed to be perfect. Our 22nd wedding anniversary fell on a Saturday in early October. The kind of crisp Midwestern autumn evening that makes you nostalgic for things you didn't even live through. The trees lining our suburban street burned gold and amber. Porch lights flickered on. Neighbors walked dogs bundled in light jackets, waving politely like they always did. We lived in Oak Ridge, one of those comfortable American suburbs where everyone's lawn looked professionally trimmed, and the HOA sent passive-aggressive emails about trash bins. It wasn't flashy, but it was stable, safe, familiar. Just like my marriage, or so I believed. I'd spent weeks planning the party. Not because Ethan asked me to, but because I wanted to. 22 years felt worth celebrating. We'd survived layoffs, miscarriages, cross-country moves, teenage rebellion, and the quiet distance that sometimes crept into long marriages like dust you didn't notice until it coated everything. This party was my way of saying we're still here. Our daughter Lily, home from college, helped string warm fairy lights across the backyard. Our son Mark teased me for going overboard with the charcuterie. Friends brought wine, laughter, stories from years gone by. Ethan wore the navy blazer I loved. The one that made him look like the man I fell for when I was 27 and thought life was predictable. When he kissed my cheek and said, "You did an amazing job, Claire," I believed him. I believed everything. The house filled quickly. There were co-workers from Ethan's consulting firm, neighbors, old friends from our early marriage years, the ones who remembered us when we were broke and hopeful and renting our first apartment with mismatched furniture. Music played softly in the background, classic hits from the 90s and early 2000s. Someone opened another bottle of Prosecco. Laughter echoed down the hallway. For the first hour, everything felt exactly as it should. Until the doorbell rang again. I was in the kitchen refilling bowls when Ethan froze mid-sentence. "I'll get it," he said quickly. Too quickly. I watched him from behind the kitchen island as he walked to the door. His back straightened. He ran a hand through his hair, something he only did when he was nervous. The door opened, and then she stepped inside. Red dress. Long dark hair pulled into a low, elegant knot. Barely any jewelry. Confident posture. She looked around the house. Not curious, not impressed, just familiar. Ethan laughed, but it sounded wrong. Forced. Thin. "You made it," he said. That's when I realized. He'd known she was coming. I felt a strange pressure in my chest as they hugged. Not a friendly, awkward hug. Not a polite one. It lasted a beat too long. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and walked toward them, my smile already practiced. "Hi," I said. "I'm Claire." She turned to me, and her eyes met mine without hesitation. Warm brown. Steady. Unapologetic. "I know," she said with a soft smile. "I'm Vanessa." She extended her hand. Her grip was firm, confident, unnerving. "And how do you know Ethan?" I asked, keeping my voice light, hostess perfect. Vanessa glanced at him. Just a flicker. But it was enough. "Oh," she said smoothly. "We work together." Ethan nodded too quickly. "Consulting project. Downtown." Something twisted in my stomach. Because Ethan had never mentioned her. Not once. As the night went on, I couldn't stop watching them. Vanessa didn't hover, but she didn't disappear either. She moved through the room like she belonged, laughing at Ethan's jokes before he finished them, touching his arm lightly when she spoke, standing just a little too close. At one point I noticed she knew where the bathroom was. She didn't ask. She didn't hesitate. She walked down the hallway like she'd done it before. My heart started to pound. I tried to brush it off. You're being paranoid, I told myself. You're tired. Emotional. It's just a party. But paranoia has a way of sharpening your senses. I noticed Ethan refilling her drink before she asked. Noticed the way his eyes tracked her across the room. Noticed the way he avoided looking at me when she laughed. Lily leaned over at one point and whispered, "Mom, who's the woman in red?" I swallowed. One of Dad's co-workers. Lily frowned. She's intense. That was one word for it. The speeches came next. Mark clinked his glass and gave a heartfelt toast about what real commitment looks like. Our friends laughed. I smiled through the lump in my throat. Then Ethan stood. He took my hand. "For 22 years, he said, Claire has been my anchor, my constant, the person who made everything else possible." Applause filled the room. But as he spoke, his eyes drifted. Not to me, to Vanessa. Just for a second. But I saw it. And so did she. She lifted her glass slightly, just enough for him to notice. That's when the truth finally started to surface, slow and cold and undeniable. I didn't know what it was yet, but I knew it would change everything. Later, as guests mingled and the night softened into that hazy space between celebration and exhaustion, I found Vanessa standing alone on the back patio. The fairy lights glowed above her. The autumn air brushed against her bare shoulders. "Beautiful party," she said without turning around. "Thank you," I replied. "You seem very comfortable here." She smiled faintly. "I am." I crossed my arms. "How long have you known my husband?" She looked at me then. Really looked. Long enough to hurt. And then she said the words that cracked my world open. "Longer than you think." The truth behind the red dress. Longer than you think. Vanessa's words hung between us like smoke after a firework. Thin, drifting, impossible to ignore. The music from inside the house floated through the open patio doors, laughter rising and falling in careless waves. My friends, my family, all of them celebrating a marriage that suddenly felt like a set built on rotting wood. I forced my voice to stay steady. "What does that mean?" Vanessa tilted her head slightly, studying me the way someone studies a reflection they didn't expect to see. "It means exactly what it sounds like." I laughed. A short, brittle sound that surprised even me. "You're being vague on purpose." She didn't deny it. Some truths land better when they're discovered, not dumped. Anger flared. "You show up at my anniversary party in a red dress, act like you own my house, tell me you've known my husband longer than I think, and now you want to lecture me about delivery?" For the first time, her composure cracked. Just a hairline fracture, but I saw it. "You deserved better than the way this is coming out," she said quietly. "This." The word slammed into my chest. I stepped closer. "Say it." She looked past me through the glass doors where Ethan was laughing with Mark, completely unaware, or pretending to be. "I didn't plan to meet you like this," she said. I told him it was a bad idea to invite me. My hands went cold. "Invite you to what?" Vanessa met my eyes. "To tonight." The world tilted. "You're saying Ethan invited you to our anniversary party?" She nodded once. I wanted to scream. Instead I whispered, "Why?" "Because," she said, "he's a coward." I left her standing on the patio and walked straight inside. Every step felt unreal, like my feet weren't touching the ground. I scanned the room until I found Ethan near the kitchen, pouring himself a drink he didn't need. "Ethan," I said sharply. He turned, smile ready, and then he saw my face. "What's wrong?" he asked. "Outside." "Now." He hesitated. Just for a second. Long enough. We stepped onto the patio, the night air biting against my skin. I closed the door behind us. Why is she here? I demanded. His shoulders sagged. Claire. Don't, I snapped. Don't lie. Don't minimize. Don't pretend this is nothing. I saw the way you look at her. I saw the way she looks at you. Silence. That silence was louder than any confession. How long? I asked. He rubbed his face, hands shaking. A year. A year. 12 months of lies. Of late nights. Of work trips. Of unexplained distance I blamed on stress, aging routine. A year, I repeated, tasting the bitterness. And you brought her into our home. I didn't think. No, I said. You thought. You just chose yourself. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. I was going to tell you, he said finally. When? I laughed, tears burning. After dessert? After the speeches about commitment. His voice broke. I didn't know how. I stared at the man I'd built my life with, and for the first time he felt like a stranger. Where did you meet her? I asked. At work, he admitted. She was consulting on the same project. And you just fell into bed together? I asked sharply. No, he said. We talked. A lot. About things I didn't even realize I was missing. That hurt more than the sex would have. The door opened behind us. Vanessa stepped out. I think I should go, she said softly. I turned on her. Oh, now you find your manners? She flinched but held her ground. I never wanted to hurt you. That's funny, I said. Because here we are. Ethan reached for my arm. I shook him off. How long? I asked her. Have you been in love with my husband? She didn't answer immediately. That was answer enough. Claire, Ethan said, voice pleading. Please. Let's not do this here. Why? I shot back. Because people might find out the truth at our fake little celebration? The patio door creaked again. Lily's voice drifted out. Mom? Dad? I inhaled sharply. Go inside, I told Ethan. Smile. Finish your party. I'll deal with this later. He hesitated. Claire. Go. He went. Vanessa and I stood alone under the lights. I didn't know he was married when we first met, she said suddenly. I scoffed. That makes it better? I found out later, she continued. He told me you were emotionally checked out. That the marriage was already over. My stomach churned. And you believed him? Yes, she said. Because I wanted to. At least she was honest. Do you love him? I asked quietly. She swallowed. Yes. The word cut clean. Does he love you? She hesitated. That hesitation felt like a small bitter victory. He cares, she said. I nodded slowly. That's what I thought. She took a step back. I'm leaving. I shouldn't have come. You shouldn't have existed in my life at all, I replied. She winced but said nothing. As she walked away, I realized something terrifying. My anger wasn't just for her. It was for Ethan. And for myself. The rest of the party passed in a blur. I smiled when required. Hugged friends. Thanked them for coming. Accepted compliments on the food. Inside, something was unraveling thread by thread. When the last guest left and the house fell silent, Ethan finally spoke. I'm sorry, he said, standing in the living room amid empty glasses and half-burned candles. I looked at him, not with rage, with exhaustion. You didn't just cheat on me, I said. You humiliated me, in front of everyone, in my own home. I never meant for you to find out like this. There is no good way to find out, I replied. But this might be the worst. He nodded, tears in his eyes. I'll end it. I swear. I stared at him. You already ended something. You just haven't accepted it yet. I walked past him and up the stairs, closing the bedroom door behind me. That night, I lay awake beside a man I no longer recognized. listening to the quiet American suburb hum outside our window. And I knew this was only the beginning, because secrets this big don't disappear. They explode. The lies we told to survive. The morning after our anniversary arrived without ceremony. No dramatic sunrise. No storm. Just pale October light slipping through the blinds like nothing in the world had changed. But everything had. Ethan was already awake when I opened my eyes. I could tell by the way his breathing wasn't deep enough for sleep, by the stiffness in his posture on his side of the bed. 22 years teaches you those details. Neither of us spoke. I got up, wrapped myself in a robe and walked downstairs. The house smelled faintly of stale wine and extinguished candles. Evidence of celebration turned debris. I began clearing glasses from the living room, my movements mechanical, distant, like I was cleaning someone else's life. Ethan appeared in the doorway. "Claire, we need to talk." I didn't look at him. "We talked last night." "No," he said. "We detonated. Talking comes after." I set a glass down too hard. "Funny. You seem very capable of talking to Vanessa." The name tasted wrong in my mouth. He winced. "Please don't." "Don't what?" I snapped, finally turning to face him. "Say her name? Pretend she doesn't exist? You invited your mistress to our anniversary party, Ethan. There's no version of this where I tiptoe around your feelings." He sank into a chair, suddenly older, smaller. "I didn't invite her to hurt you." "That's your go-to defense," I said. "You didn't mean to. You just did." Silence settled between us again, thick and heavy. "What do you want to do?" he asked finally. I stared at him. "You think I know?" By noon, the truth had begun leaking into the world. Lily cornered me in the kitchen, arms crossed, eyes sharp. "Mom, something's wrong." I considered lying. I thought about protecting her, about pretending adulthood was still simple and marriages didn't fracture like glass. But I was too tired. "Your father had an affair," I said quietly. Her face drained of color. "With the woman in red." "Yes." She swallowed hard. "You knew." "I found out last night." She shook her head slowly, disbelief turning to anger. "He brought her here. To us." "I know. I can't even look at him," she said, voice breaking. "How could he do that to you?" I wanted to say something wise, reassuring. Instead, I said the truth. "I don't know who he is right now." Mark found out later that day through Lily. His reaction was louder, angrier. Doors slammed. Words were said that couldn't be taken back. Ethan took it all in silence. I didn't defend him. That afternoon, I drove aimlessly through town, passing places soaked in memory. The grocery store where we argued over cereal brands, the diner where we celebrated promotions, the park where Ethan once chased Lily with a kite. American life is built on repetition, familiar routes, routine comfort, and I realized how much of my identity had been shaped by us. I pulled into the parking lot of a small coffee shop and sat there, gripping the steering wheel, trying to remember who I'd been before Ethan Carter, before wife, before anchor. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Vanessa, I'm sorry to do this, but there's more you should know." I stared at the screen for a long time before responding. "Me? I don't owe you anything." 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Then, "Vanessa, you're right, but you deserve the truth." Against my better judgment, I replied. "Me? Then tell it." We met 2 days later in a public place, a neutral territory kind of truce. A quiet cafe downtown where no one knew us, where our lives weren't already mapped onto the walls. She looked different without the red dress. Smaller. Less certain. "I won't take much of your time," she said, hands wrapped tightly around her mug. "Then start," I replied. She inhaled. "Ethan told me he was planning to leave." My jaw clenched. "When?" "Months ago," she admitted. "He said he was waiting for the right moment. That he didn't want to blindside you." I laughed softly. How thoughtful of him. He talked about you, she continued. About your history. Your kids. I knew I was stepping into something complicated. And you stepped anyway. Yes, she said, meeting my gaze. Because I believed him. I studied her face, searching for malice, triumph. Anything to justify hating her more. I found none. Why come to the party? I asked. She hesitated. Because I was tired of being invisible. That hit harder than I expected. He kept me hidden, she said. Always promising a future that never arrived. When he invited me, I thought, maybe this was him finally choosing. I sat back, the pieces rearranging themselves in a new, uglier picture. So you weren't there to taunt me, I said. You were there to force his hand. She nodded. I didn't expect to meet you like that. To see you. And her voice softened. You weren't the villain I'd imagined. I stood. Neither are you. But that doesn't make any of this okay. I know, she said quietly. As I walked away, I felt something surprising. Not forgiveness, but clarity. Ethan had lied to both of us. That night, I confronted him. You told her you were leaving me, I said. His face crumpled. I didn't know how to stop without blowing everything up. You already did. I replied. You just let me clean up the mess. I was confused, he said weakly. I felt trapped. Trapped. I repeated. By a marriage you actively betrayed? He reached for me. I stepped back. I spent years adjusting myself to keep this family together, I said. And you found excitement elsewhere instead of honesty here. I'm sorry, he whispered. I don't care about sorry anymore, I said. I care about truth. I took a breath. Do you still love her? He opened his mouth, closed it. That pause told me everything. That night I slept in the guest room. For the first time since we married, we slept apart under the same roof. And in that quiet, something inside me shifted. I realized survival wasn't about holding on at all costs. Sometimes survival meant letting go of the lies, even the ones you told yourself. Choosing myself. The guest room smelled like lavender and dust. I lay awake staring at the ceiling fan as it hummed in uneven circles, each rotation marking another second of a life that no longer fit. I'd slept in that room before, when one of the kids was sick, or when Ethan worked late and didn't want to wake me, but this was different. This wasn't temporary. This was a line. At 3 in the morning, I made a decision that felt both terrifying and inevitable. I would stop waiting for Ethan to choose. I would choose myself. The next morning, I told him I wanted space. Not a break, I clarified, standing in the kitchen with a mug of untouched coffee between us. And not a promise. Space. His eyes were bloodshot. How much? I don't know, I said honestly. Enough to hear my own thoughts again. He nodded, swallowing. I'll stay with my brother. The relief I felt surprised me. When he left that afternoon with an overnight bag, the house exhaled. The quiet that followed wasn't empty, it was spacious. I spent the day doing things I hadn't done in years without thinking about someone else's schedule. I took a long walk through the neighborhood. I let the laundry wait. I ordered takeout instead of cooking. That night I slept deeply, dreamlessly. The fallout came quickly. In America, news travels fast in suburban circles. Church friends texted cautiously. Neighbors avoided eye contact. A few well-meaning people offered casseroles and advice in equal measure. Marriage takes work, one woman said, squeezing my hand. So does leaving, I replied. Lily moved back to campus early. Mark stopped by less often, torn between loyalty and rage. I didn't blame them. I started therapy. A small office with framed affirmations and a woman who listened without interrupting. You've spent decades being the stable one, she said gently. Who are you when you're not holding everything together? I didn't know, but I wanted to find out. Ethan tried. He sent long texts, apologies, promises of counseling, confessions of confusion. One night he showed up unannounced. I ended it. he said immediately. With Vanessa. Completely. I studied him through the doorway. Why now? Because I finally see what I'm losing. I shook my head. You saw that when you risked it. I want to fix this, he said desperately. I believed him. That didn't mean I trusted him. Fixing requires honesty, I said. And I don't know if you're capable of that yet. His shoulders sagged. What do you want from me? I took a breath. I want you to figure out who you are without leaning on me to absorb the damage. He left again, quieter this time. Weeks passed. I reclaimed pieces of myself in small, unglamorous ways. I joined a yoga class at the community center. I met friends for lunch without pretending everything was fine. I painted the guest room a soft gray neutral calm mine. One afternoon, I ran into Vanessa at the grocery store. Of course I did. She looked startled to see me. Claire. Vanessa. We stood awkwardly near the produce section, two women bound by the same man and nothing else. I'm moving, she said quickly. Out of state. New job. I nodded. Good. She hesitated. I'm sorry. Truly. I believed her. Take care of yourself, I said. She smiled sadly. You too. And just like that, she faded out of my life. Ethan and I eventually sat down with a mediator, not to reconcile but to talk logistics. I don't know if I want to stay married, I said. And I won't decide out of fear. He nodded. I'll respect whatever you choose. That was new. In the quiet moments I grieved, not just the betrayal, but the version of my future I'd assumed was guaranteed. But grief made room for something else. Strength, clarity, choice. One evening months later I hosted a small dinner. Not an anniversary. Not a performance. Just people I loved sitting around my table laughing without pretense. As I watched them I realized something profound. My life hadn't ended when my marriage cracked open. It had expanded. The life I chose after the truth. The divorce was finalized on a rainy Thursday in March. No courtroom drama. No raised voices. Just two people sitting across from each other in a quiet office, signing papers that dissolved a life built over 22 years. When the mediator slid the final document toward me, my hand trembled, but not from doubt, from finality. Ethan looked at me once, searching my face for something, permission maybe. I gave him a small nod. Not forgiveness. Not absolution. Acknowledgement. When we walked out separately, the rain had softened into a mist. I sat in my car for a long time before turning the key, breathing in the strange mix of grief and relief. In America, we talk about endings like failures, but no one tells you how much courage it takes to stop pretending. The months that followed were quieter, not empty, intentional. I downsized to a smaller townhouse closer to downtown, walking distance to a bookstore and a coffee shop where the barista learned my name. I bought furniture that reflected me, not compromises made over decades. Clean lines, warm textures, space to breathe. Lily visited on weekends. Mark called more often once the anger settled into something softer. One evening, Lily watched me cooking dinner and said, "You seem lighter." I smiled. I feel like myself again. She hugged me tightly. "I'm proud of you, Mom." That meant more than she knew. Ethan and I learned how to coexist differently. We spoke about the kids, about logistics, about boundaries. Once months later he said, "I didn't realize how much you carried until you stopped." I nodded. Neither did I. We weren't enemies. We just weren't married anymore. On the anniversary of the party, the one that cracked everything open, I did something unexpected. I hosted a gathering. Not a celebration of marriage. A celebration of truth. Friends filled my new living room. There was laughter, music, warmth, but no pretending. No roles. No performances. At one point, I caught my reflection in the window. Older. Softer. Stronger. A woman who had been caught off guard and stood back up anyway. Sometimes late at night I thought about Vanessa. Not with anger. With perspective. She wasn't the villain. She was a symptom of a man who chose secrecy over honesty, and of a culture that tells women to endure quietly. I refused to do that anymore. One afternoon, while browsing shelves in the bookstore near my home, a man struck up a conversation with me about a novel we both loved. It was easy, unforced. When he asked if I wanted to grab coffee sometime, I surprised myself by saying yes, not because I needed someone, but because I wanted to connect. And that made all the difference. If there's one thing I learned, it's this: being caught off guard doesn't have to break you. Sometimes it wakes you up. It shows you who you've been protecting at your own expense. It teaches you that love without respect is not love. It's endurance. And endurance is not the same as living. I didn't lose my marriage that night. I found my life.